In this episode of Talk ADHD, Andrew and I are joined by Tom Woodhams, who is a senior talent acquisition partner at Hawkeye. They're the Sony wing, an organisation who provide VAR, which is incredibly apt given it's the Euros happening at the moment. In this episode, Tom's really candidly shared his experiences of a missed diagnosis of ADHD as a child, the results of that diagnosis being missed, and what changed after his own late life diagnosis. He's an incredible character. His presence online and on LinkedIn is one that's so empowering for other people, using his incredible talent for photoshopping himself into unique situations to make really good points. I hope you really get a lot from this episode. It's the first where we're bringing in someone whose experience of living with ADHD, as well as being a professional in their own industry, adds value to the conversation. So sit back and enjoy this episode of Talk ADHD. Thomas, nice to meet you. Just for the benefit of everyone who is going to be listening and watching this, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it?
How long you got? Okay, so yeah, thanks for obviously both for having me. So yeah, my name's Tom. Been in tech recruitment, just over nearly 9 years now. Yeah, massive personality, ADHD, diagnosed 5 years ago, content creator, podcast host, and yeah, just my role at Hawkeye. If anyone doesn't know what Hawkeye are, obviously we provide sporting technology, and most people might see more commonly with maybe cricket or tennis. That was probably what they'd be reminded for, or something that would be more commonly known. And obviously we do all the smart officiation with obviously the Premier League, so that would be VAR. So that's pretty much my role. I manage all the, I don't manage as a part of a team. I do all the engineering. So that's all the tech. So that's all the development engineering. So front end, back end, QA, DevOps. And yeah, massive nerd myself outside of work, Lego collector, Funko Pop collector, anything with that's shiny and is a lot of money, but is a collector. But apart from that, my sporting choice is badminton, and I played badminton from an early age. Last year I was ranked top 100 in the UK for men's singles, and now I'm over that 35 age now. I'm classed as vets, so I get to play in the veteran league, which I'm probably going to do, I know. And that's pretty much me in a summary.
Okay, that's fantastic. So you mentioned some things there which would instantly jump out to me, and I don't know about you, Andrew, from even not from a clinical, just from a knowing people like us perspective, that make me go, So the collecting and the shiny objects and the expensive objects kind of thing, I think that's fascinating. I love that you're really open about that. Badminton from an early age, definitely I want to touch on that. Let's start with how you got into this role. Right. And I'll come on to the ADHD piece later. How do you find yourself in the tech world? What's your early journey? Because I saw a post this morning that you shared about you came from being a lifeguard with bleach blonde hair on £4.50 an hour, being told, well done, having what you grown on you now, they hold on, selling's in the blood. You'll be good at that. What was the actual journey to get to where you are?
Well, I think when I was doing the lifeguarding, it was kind of like anything, you need to go and work. And obviously doing a year as a lifeguard and I was being a lifeguard, then I was working at like the sports centre as well as like a sport, like leisure person, like setting up the badminton nets and so on and so forth. And then at that point, they asked me if I wanted to do a management, which was another apprenticeship course after college, which is then getting paid probably £5.50 an hour, which means they knew what they're doing, because obviously they had me cheap labour, and because it was an apprenticeship, they would pay me £5.50, and everyone else was getting paid, I don't know, about £1,100, for example, for a lifeguard. So I was doing exactly what they were doing. So then at that point, I was like, I didn't really want to really do that, and I just wanted to make more money. My nan said, you really need to maybe go into, because she owned a fruit market called Mears in Brighton, which is still going now. And you said you really need to, you've got it in, gift of the gab, that's what she say. So I went into telesales. I was actually selling like lottery tickets, syndicates, manic behaviour there. The Joker, the clown, there. And then I worked in the call center. They had different campaigns, but then after that I went on to Orange, which probably everyone knows as probably, I think it's EE now, but it was Orange back then. And then just moved up into insurance sales, moved up into insurance. And then I got to the point and I was like my friend was doing recruitment and I was like, do you know what? I really, when it comes to like financial services, you're really, because of my personality, I used to obviously get on with people really well, but because you're selling financial products, you have to use a script. So you have to make sure you're stating all the different compliance points. So you're not really advising on the insurance. You're just basically giving people the options and letting them choose. You can't really take them down that path and saying, this is really good for X, Y. So I wanted that sort of freedom of being able to just sort of talk how I wanted to talk and be how I wanted to be. So I went into recruitment, started in finance and tech. Yeah, was there not too long. Christmas party, too excited, drunk, and then I got a call on the Monday. Sorry, it's not working out. Then I got into another IT job. Same thing happened again. Met a client, went bananas on the credit card to get jobs. It's not working out. Then obviously went into another company. Did well there. Then that company poached me, the client I was working with. And then I did all their major hires for 6 months. And then they said, thanks, we ain't got any more funding. And then at that point, I was pretty much like, well, what am I doing? Because I love tech. So I ended up setting up my own business for nearly 4.5 years down south. And I had my own recruitment business up to 6 people, but I didn't have a holiday for nearly 4.5 years. Addicted to work. Relationship was just couldn't stop thinking about work all the time. Was diagnosed then as well, and I couldn't do it anymore. And then obviously I met my fiance on TikTok, and then ADHD moment. She was the love of my life within a week. Moved up north, engaged within nearly 6 weeks, and then here I am. Pretty much moved from Reed, which is a big high street agency, and RPO, which is basically embedded with the civil service. I was working on Ministry of Defence, and they didn't get the neurodiversity piece, admin. I was asking for help, breakdowns, and then I actually then went to Hawkeye, which is where I'm sort of now being me, should we say, with no worries of what I'm putting out, and all my content I'd like to think is even just helping me understand myself, but I feel like I'm a half experienced ADHDer now at that point, obviously understanding yourself and that journey and breathe.
So, Andrew, I'll bring you in here because as you listen to the career history, right? In that to me sounds in the sort of the broad sense very similar to the things I hear from a lot of other people who are either thinking about diagnosis or are newly diagnosed, this sort of changing careers a lot and not quite settling and not finding that something stimulates them enough that then can be the catalyst to lead into a diagnosis. Is that something you think is still really common, that it's career histories or it's life history that leads people to go, I wonder?
I think it's yes, but as with all of these things, it's more nuanced than that. And I think Tom's story really hammers it home in that Tom started out as a lifeguard. I've got to get a job, did the job, and things started going wrong with that job. So worked out what was wrong with that job that I need to do a little bit more, tailor it a little bit more to who I am. And this is a personal journey for everyone, isn't it? This is how how a career develops. Your career becomes more and more fitted to who you are. And that's not something that's peculiar to ADHD, but there is a theme in lots of people that I see story that's very like to Tom's, particularly with those later diagnosed, that you move closer and closer to something that suits you and further away from those factors out there that really rile us as people with ADHD, and find that those footholds where you can express yourself. But it's a hard journey, and it's that part of the story, Tom, where you were talking about coming to diagnosis and relationship not going well, it is that sometimes leads people who wouldn't otherwise seek a diagnosis to say, well, maybe this is what explains all of these struggles that have happened so far. And then to hear Tom say, and the story goes on, really refines the idea that diagnosis is only part of that journey, isn't it?
Actually, out of interest, Tom, in that story, What was the first thought that put ADHD in your mind? You mentioned TikTok. You mentioned you met your fiance on TikTok, but what was the ADHD moment then for you 5 years ago?
Well, my mum actually took me to the doctors when I was 12, and because she saw fidgeting, leg bouncing, always talking. All my school reports was I wasn't disruptive, always talking, class clown, concentration, focus. If only he applied himself. La 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 la. When I went there, they just said, "Oh, he's just an excitable child," and that was at that point where really my mum was like, "Okay, we'll just monitor it and obviously get him into sport or whatever." And that's obviously when I got into badminton when I was 14, but sorry, 13. But it was yeah, I was never disruptive, I was never naughty, never got in trouble. It was more of being the class clown, wanting people to like me, showing off, to be liked, to be laughed with. I want to be cool, whatever. But it was never, yeah, it was at that point. I think with it got to a point with when you said about the ADHD going back 5 years is the drunk, excessive behaviour, drugs, gambling. And it got to a point where my mum, I don't want to get emotional, but my mum chucked me out of my house and said, "I can't cope with you anymore because your erratic behaviour is causing problems with my dad, you and your dad, my parents." Yeah, it just got to a point where it was too much, and I went to relationship, people pleasing, stealing because the family was putting me into debt. So I was stealing. I stole a funny story, which I stole the mum was deaf, a bigger lady, and the communication was quite hard with me when she was at home because she just sat at home all day. So I was going to work, walking the dog, coming home. She said, "You need to give me more money, more money, more money." And my debt, because you're people pleasing, I didn't have anywhere else to go. I was literally drowning in it. So she's like, "I don't want I want a hot tub and stuff like that." I ended up going to home base, and I wheeled the hot tub out of home base. And when I got home, it was all plywood in the hot tub. It was, so I wheeled it out, and she was like, "Oh my God, what's going on, Tommy?" I got excited.
Still got
it was
you
all in the wrapping, and it was when you got home, when you opened it, it's all plywood. But it took me to a point, and the relationship was toxic. It was so toxic, and then at that point, I got home, and then it just kind of, I met some really nice, moved them in the family, and I got the diagnosis, and it was like me and my mum just cried with each other and was like, everything makes sense now. Why I was like that, why I acted in that behaviour, why I did this, why I was addictive, and it was like a sense of freedom. Like, it wasn't just me, and I was just like, because everyone used to say, "Oh mate, you're too much, like, why you act like that, and it was like a bad thing. And I was a bit like, I don't know why. I don't know. I think you've got ADHD. I think you've got ADHD, and you think at the end of the time you probably know that you have got it, but you just go, "I'm all right." It's drink that sends me west. I just can't drink anymore. And yeah, sorry, rambling now, just because. But it was at that point where
Tom, actually, no, I don't. There was a really important point there that there are a lot of people out there that are saying, "Yeah, this is just me." I did it for 8 years as an ADHD specialist. No, I haven't got ADHD. To the patients who were saying, "But yeah, you understand." So there's something about things sort of snowball, don't they? Things go wrong, and they get more and more wrong. For all that time, you sat with that knowledge that you went to see someone in your teenage years that said you were just excitable. So how did that shift come from excitable across to, hey, hang on a minute, could this actually be ADHD? And could the person who told me I was excitable when I was in my teenage years be wrong?
Yeah.
What was so what was it? Who suggested maybe you need to get an assessment, or did you just go, I think they were wrong, I'm going to get assessed? Why? I mean, I get all the gambling, all the problems, but what was the trigger?
My mum said to me, like, and my friend's granddad said to me, "Why don't you get checked out?" Just because I was going out and getting absolutely blackouts and whatnot, and it was getting to a point where it was like excitable, couldn't really, the emotions were up and down, just like so focused on work, like hobbies and new interests. And I just got to a point where my mum said, I think you need to go to the doctors again, because no one behaves. I can hear it in my now. No one behaves the way you do. And that was like, okay. So I went to the doctors, did the questionnaire, which basically was 10 questions. It was all 10s. Got a letter literally within 3 days, referred me, and I got the diagnosis within less than 2 weeks. And obviously then I had to go to the psychologist and speak there for 2 hours, which was emotional, because you're bringing up stuff from your past that you're trying to remember, and then suddenly it's like all these feelings come out and you get emotional, and obviously it's hard for the doctor. Well, you're trying, they're sort of just nodding, yes, tell us a little bit more about that. And I'm thinking, like, sometimes I'm thinking, I just want someone to resonate with me and say, do you know what, mate, I was there too, and this is what, and someone to go, I did this, 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 and this, and me going, oh my God, did you? And suddenly you've got this, you both understand each other. But with obviously the clinicians, he was really, really good, but he just never said anything. He just sort of said, right, yeah. And then obviously put me on Concerta. I was up at 72. I couldn't even talk, for being honest. That was too high for me. I literally just went into, yeah, okay. It was literally like not change me, but it just literally just put like, it just literally just brought me down to a level where it wasn't me. I went to 36, and then that was a bit, I was still like, woo, hyper all the time. And then we've been on 54 for the last 4.5 years. And that's been the level of Ibra, whatever that word is.
Yeah.
But yeah, on that level.
Yeah. What's interesting for me, Andrew, here is again, though, is here's Tom, right? 5 years down the line, and I know you're now very vocal about it. And I'll come on to actually how your content could be viewed as the way you were as a child, but just really focused, right? That creativity and sort of excitability. But I'll come back to that in a minute. What I really like there, and I think is important, and I heard, was again the trialing the different doses, and the fact that it's not more is the fix, more is better. I don't feel this is right, up the dose. To hear you say, actually, I went up, I went down, and now I've got somewhere in the middle, that's phenomenal. And then just to follow on from that, before we press record this morning, the first thing you said was, just to let you know, Matt, it's Friday, I don't take my meds on a Friday. There's that agency, isn't there, of this is my medication. Yes, I've been titrated. Yes, I've been guided through, but it's mine, and I now have enough understanding of what it does for me to know when it's relevant and when it's not. Hopefully you heard that as well. But I mean, that's everything we've tried to say in the past, I think, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, there was a lot in what Tom just said about how clinicians could be, and how ADHD care could be. But yet, yes, that idea of agency with medication, really, really important. And with a dose like 54 milligrams of Concerta, absolutely no problem with missing Friday. There's probably no problem missing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and going back on Monday. Yeah, Monday would be a little bit more. Yeah. So do you find, Tom, that on a Monday it's a little bit stronger than it is on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah, I don't know. It is. If I'm being honest. Oh, my appetite comes back. I'm like, literally, someone just got a brand new Duracell battery in the back of me, and I'm waking up in the morning. Like, as you can see now, I'm getting excited thinking about it. But yeah, it's just like this. I just get this rush of me being me, like, as in, like, in the zone, like, as in my missus, like, partner, my fiance, so it's just going like everyone knows I'm not taking meds. There's an instant switch, and I'm very sort of just talk how I want to talk without going, I'm thinking about what I'm saying now. Or in a professional environment, I do like to step over the mark a little bit with things. But yeah, Saturday, Sunday, like I don't take the medication. Monday, when I do take it, it's like plugging back in the matrix again with work and being more sort of grounded. But I also am taking lion's mane as well. which I started
Oh,
a week
Okay.
ago. Just the only reason why, just because I've heard some good reviews about this particular one from a particular place, and I'm trying it just to see if it can help me boost me even more. But at the moment, I've felt the only thing I have felt is more emotional, being honest. And I'm emotional. I'm so
yeah.
emotional as it is, but I've just felt a little bit more emotional on certain things. Like, I had something yesterday that just set me off, and I was crying just because HMRC said, when I was trying to ask them to explain something, they said, "Do you not get it? Do you not understand?" And that just set me off, and I just hung up. And how can it was
Yeah.
that word? How can you not get it? So
Right.
that I was
Not great.
booing on the front. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's another story. But yeah, going back to it, I enjoy breaking from it, and I just kind of use it as my reading glasses between Monday and Thursday, and then
Perfect.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday is
That's a
rest.
question. In terms of your sport, in terms of badminton. So here you are, top 100, about to move up a category. Is it better for you to have meds or not when you're in a competition?
Good question. I haven't played a competition for a good few months. If I do take it, I tried with, because I get very frustrated with myself on court. You're this, you're that. I tried with the tablets, and I just, I don't know, I just couldn't get the initial excitement from it all, going to the tournament, and the anxiety in my stomach playing, and that feeling. I wanted to feel that the prep for it, just because it just sent me into like work mode, should we say. But with the tablets, I just felt a little bit more anxious than I would normally, and just sort of just didn't really feel.
Right.
I didn't feel passionate enough about it. I just sort of just quite chilled when I was going there. But I like the build up, like the night before, doing my bag, doing the packed lunch, and all that sort of stuff. All the emotions that come with going to a tournament and playing. I like them emotions because it just fires me up even more, puts a bit more sort of pressure on me to play better.
Yeah.
So I've tried that out.
So
Okay.
that's excitement, isn't it? At a tournament, is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about? You get excited that you're
Yeah, I
going to go
want
and
that.
compete.
I want that, even if I can't stand losing, but it's the whole build up to it, like doing my rackets, doing all that sort of stuff. Really excites me thinking about it now. But it's just that initial that sort of adrenaline, should we say, going on court and that playing.
That's exactly what it is, Tom.
And again, I think that's that point, isn't it? There's you understanding what meds do and don't do, and what you want, what feeling you want, and kind of going, well, do I need the medication for that feeling? Does it help me? Does it not? It's that agency thing again that I think is so important for me when I'm mentoring people, and I know Andrew and I speak about it a lot, is you understand yourself, which sort of leads me on to this, right? For anyone that doesn't follow you, we'll put your sort of details and your links in the show notes. The thing I noticed about you first was how creative your posts are on LinkedIn. You seem to be a Photoshop guru or an artistic guru. You insert yourself into just the funniest situations or with characters, and I'm kind of like, okay, either you're just really good at this or you spend hours on a post, because everything is professional grade. Listening to you now, but I can now see the distractible, excitable, busy, fidgety, creative younger Tom has now got this outlet to channel some of that into. So you've got your work persona, where you're really good, and you've got the Hawkeye, and I see when you post about doing events, but your posts advocating about ADHD and trying to help people understand ADHD, and particularly in terms of recruitment, which we're going to come on to, they seem to be this outlet. Is that how it feels for you, that that's somewhere else for you to get that creative sort of shot?
You'd be on my, like a fly on the wall. Yeah, it is like literally I thrive off I want to stand out. I've in the past always wanted to fit in. Always wanted to fit in. I want to fit in with everyone else, whatever. And I just think now, like, without sounding cheesy, like, as much as I have like the cons of LinkedIn and people, and obviously you've seen posts that I've put and how we share about the same similar passions for different things with different people. is that I enjoy it. I fucking love it. I love creating the image, coming up with the idea in my head. Like, it could be anything. Like, I might have an idea in the day, and then I think automatically straight away think, what image am I going to put with this? How am I going to create this? And it's just the excitement I'm getting thinking about how I'm going to build it. Yeah, I love it, if I'm being honest. I love seeing people's reaction. Like, I like people laughing. I'm trying to obviously get that to bring something different to LinkedIn, as well as keeping professional, as well as keeping like as the sort of good, knowledgeable person that's not trying to sell anything. Obviously, I'm not there to make money off anyone. So I enjoy it because it helps. Yes, as you're right, it's an outlet for me to understand myself, because as I'm saying it, it helps me check in with myself about my feelings, my triggers, my environments, how I am as a person, why I feel certain ways. And that's been one of the most key things, is understanding myself and why I feel certain ways at certain times, why we get aggressive over someone being horrible, which you've experienced from when I've messaged you saying, why is Alex not messaging me back? I'm fuming. And I've gone out all my way about putting the image of me on my knees saying, come back to me. And that was like personal for me. I was like, I'm putting my hand on my sleeve here. And I was like, oh, I don't know what's happened. He hates me. And he's messaging me saying, no, I'm sorry, mate, I'm just a bit busy. And I was like, hey, I was going to block you soon. So, so it just shows that smallest things, and I understand why I feel like that. And I think the reason why I do say it is because people don't understand why they feel that way, or why they go down this particular path. And like I said before, I like to think I'm quite an experienced ADHD, even though I'm learning every day with different things and stuff like that. I like to think I've got some grasp over why certain things feel a certain way, and what things that have helped me personally, which I feel that could be beneficial for some particular people. So, and I think that's obviously come from a childhood as well as getting the message across without looking like a twat in hindsight.
And let's focus on the recruitment bit of then, because I think this is important, because Andrew and I often talk about, like Andrew said earlier on, diagnosis is the start, it's not the end. Like diagnosis, and even by the time you're in titration and you're on a working dose, that's the start of your ADHD life. It's not done then. So you now create this content. It's not your job. You do it to help you. I'm going to ask you a question I already think I know the answer to. Do people reach out to you and say, because I've seen the comments, but do they reach out privately and say, thank you, that really helped, that really resonated? And why do you think that's important for them?
I think it's important for them because I think a lot of people have got ADHD but don't want to be perceived online, or are still probably coming to terms with their ADHD, or think they've got ADHD, don't want to get a diagnosis because either they're in a big corporate environment, or they are probably not scared, but they don't want to be outcast online. They don't want to be seen different, or however that looks. I think a lot of people do mask. They know they've got ADHD, but they mask it at work or different places or online. And people that read it, I'm thinking, and message me, you would never guess. Well, you would guess, but you wouldn't think with these big titles. Like recently did a podcast with the Chief Inspector of Thames Police, talked very openly about the ADHD diagnosis. Carl Mumford, who's got the ADHD, and I think a lot of people think it's a barrier for them, or they're going to be treated different, or they're going to get sacked. That's probably one of the main things that I would think. I've got ADHD, right? HR alert, boom, 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 and people do think I'm going to get sacked 'cause I've got ADHD, or I don't really want to open up about because I don't want people to know I've got ADHD. So it is one of them things is where like it's I love people coming to me because I have an open conversation with them. I say what I can help with, and do you know what? It actually is given back to society all the fucking years that I did back then of being the person. It's my time now to share something that I'm very passionate about day in, day out, and that I want to help other people, and even just to give some sort of, not guidance, but just some like information that they could help, or to either get the process or what was offered. And as I say, I'm not just a lived experience. That's it. But I enjoy it because that's the reason why I create it, is for people. So I've seen your post. I've actually sent it to my husband, or because I think he's got it. Would you be happy to have a conversation? It's kind of managing people's expectations. And if I can't, I will normally get back to them and say, I've seen your message. Can I process it? Can I get back to you on Monday? And they're like, no problem. I never just look at it. So yeah, that's it. In a nutshell, I do
Andrew,
love it.
here's a question. why do you think, or do you think that's an important thing for people like Tom, who've now got their acceptance of themselves and what it means to them to have ADHD and how it coincides or collides with their career and personal life? Do you think it's important as part of that continuing journey from diagnosis for people to find voices and see posts like Thomas's and go, that, do you see that as part of that suite of tools that people should be looking to?
Well, it's part of the journey, isn't it? It's that piece about understanding what it means. Okay, we've got these 4 letters attached to our name. What does that actually mean? And what's happened? Because it's usually a Tom-like story. Things, people don't go and seek a diagnosis of ADHD when things are going right.
Yeah, true.
They're looking for an explanation of why things aren't working out well. Lots of people have. I share that story. You go and see someone in your teenage years and I was told I was ambitious, not excitable. But that sort of shapes your story to the point of diagnosis. Yes, then you need to say, okay, what of this is me? What of this is these new 4 letters? And how do I understand? Because Tom, you said earlier, it's about getting the diagnosis was that light bulb moment where finally everything made sense. And there is a bit of that when you get a diagnosis. Oh, right, yeah, looking back, and that's why that happened. That's why that happened. But and lots of, I said it when I was diagnosed. Oh, right, that makes sense. But I'm sort of a little bit less down the diagnostic journey than you. So I'm about 3-4 years diagnosed. And this far in, what I'm finding is that goes away a bit, and what I'm left with is, right, so who am I now? And I think the engagement stuff that you're doing on LinkedIn, that reaching out and connecting is and normalizing, which is a horrible word, isn't it? I spend my career saying, you don't want to be normal. Look at normal people. You don't want to be that. You want to be you. But there is something about a collective understanding of what ADHD is, and that resonance that you were looking for from the clinician earlier. You were saying, I didn't want someone to just sit and I wanted someone to connect with and say, yeah, that makes sense. That's what people are looking for, and that's the appetite that you're feeding. I think the danger then is that if people only go to one, then that one defines the whole story. So I always say to people that I'm working with, don't just take my word for it. Don't just take my opinion. Go and get other people's opinions about things, because everybody's journey is different. Everybody's story is different. And yes, there are commonalities, but life knocks and shapes as it goes along, and experiences for everyone, not just those with ADHD, shape who we are. I do worry that we get stuck in this defining ourselves as someone with ADHD, and it's a seductive trap to fall into, to say, I'm a flag flying ADHD, but yeah, I'm other things too. And I think there's a danger of getting stuck in, it's all about ADHD, and it isn't. It's all about an individual, and ADHD is one of the features and that describes who we are.
That's all right. So, Tom, here's the thing. I want to lean on your experience now in your recruitment world. Part of the reason I want to talk to you, apart from the fact that you're fascinating, is that you do work in this world. You do help people. Your posts give people some really useful information about navigating recruitment. So let's start with a really, hopefully, easy question. Why do you think the world of job hunting and applying through to sort of interview is such a daunting thing for people when they are, whether it's ADHD or otherwise, neurodivergent?
Right. Yeah, it's sometimes when it comes to the challenges, it is basically, let's be honest, if we're thinking neurodivergent mindsets, who likes admin?
Yeah.
Massive forms to fill out, and then you're ask for an upload a CV, but then you're also asking them to fill out a form as well as uploading a CV when you've got all that information on there. I think that sometimes is a level of that's too much for us to do because of the kind of mindset. Why can't it be easier? There's also around the challenging of wording. Like if there's a massive job description and it says fast, dynamic, this, blah, blah, blah. If you look at it and I'm thinking fast paced, makes no sense. I don't want to be in a fast pace, but what that could mean is it's like, or should we take talk tech, is that the growth of the product or the growth of the versions of the, like going from 1.0 to 2.0, that could be, but because people use a lot of corporate jargon, sometimes it puts people off, I think. And also for me, it's a level of understanding. When I read, I think, this makes no sense to me. Whatever this is, makes no sense. And I think sometimes it's easier to simplify wordings, especially for us as neurodivergents or ADHDs or whatever that mindset looks like, is to make it a lot simpler for people. All these asks, it's like, oh, I haven't got that, I'm not applying. But really, if you actually made it a lot more simpler, where it was actually showing the things that you need, and you've actually probably got them, but because it's so smoked with like a long list, I want all these things from you, it's like, well, I don't want to apply because I'm probably, one, I don't feel good enough because I haven't got some of them things on there. Two, don't understand the job, so I'm not going to apply. And three, I don't want to fill out the admin and do it all and go through that process. So it is really just simplifying some of it as well. So yeah, that's probably one of the challenges, I think, from a neuro.
Let's take that the next step then. If we manage somehow to manage all of that admin, to have the confidence to fill in the form and get past the jargon and all the smoke and mirrors, as you say, and we get to interview. When I'm working with corporate clients and I talk about particularly reasonable adjustments, we still have this, I hear every day, that this confusion around when a candidate should be able to ask for a reasonable adjustment and what that may look like. And also, I would broadly estimate, out of all the clients I work with, 80% would agree that most people don't tick the box on the application form that says, do you have any additional needs? Do you have any support requirements? Would you like? About 80% on average say no, they don't think most people tick it. So how do we help organisations improve those numbers? How do we help them show at the outset that people are safe to apply? And I use that word in terms of psychologically safe. Right? I'm not going to be thrown out. I'm not going to be put to the bottom of the pile if ADHD is on my application form. What do you think sort of the top couple of things that you would recommend organisations look at might be?
Well, one would be actually having more content around ADHD, not just ADHD, but more neurodivergent mindsets. Now, that could be one from people that feel comfortable in the business that are neurodivergent and have videos about talking about the safe environment, the culture, inclusive, how them, because what you normally do see with careers websites and in general, and this is something we're working towards, is it's all people, HR, it's all these big, but if you think about it, I don't want to connect with someone. If I'm applying for a job as a neurodivergent individual, I want to know what the culture's like in general. I want to know what support there is. I want to know how geared up they are. And it's quite funny you should say that, because at where I work now, I'm doing reverse mentoring with some of the stuff, like how some people coming to me going, someone's approached us with ADHD. How can we kind of make it more accommodating for us, asking me? So I really enjoy that. That's the piece that I really enjoy. So I think in general, it is kind of not just having a stamp, just saying, yeah, we're inclusive because we've got a wheelchair ramp outside. That means we're inclusive. It's not that. It's basically having more content around it. That's either posting, like the support that they do in the business, what stuff we've got we've got safe environments. Do we provide noise counselling earphones? Do you know what I mean? Do we have like other people? That's when, for me, if other neurodivergents are in a business and they're thriving in a business, support, safe environment, etc., then why not show that off to other people? Because you're going to get more neurodiverse talent being applied. Why? Because we can see it. Oh God, they're thriving. That means I'm happy. I can be myself because there's others that are like me in a business that are doing well.
Yeah. I agree. And Andrew, I'm just going to throw this one to you. How important do you think it is that more of us with ADHD in organisations particularly are able to and safe to talk about ADHD as it affects us? And what I'm particularly thinking of at the moment in the past 12 months or so is, those people that have struggled, for example, to get medication, who may have just started on their working dose, like Tom's talking, he's 34, that's my dose, and then all of a sudden couldn't get it. Now, as a clinician, and Thomas, I'm sure you'd agree, there's going to be a fundamental change from Monday to Tuesday if suddenly I can't get my meds. All of a sudden, where I was just starting to go, this is me when I can, now I can't. Do you think, both of you, I suppose, that there's, and I'll come to Andrew first, is there a case for people feeling they can explain that? They can go to maybe a HR manager and say, look, this is like having a crutch taken away, and it's going to affect me.
Is there a case for it? I think there's a very clear legal case made for it already. The Equality Act is there to support us saying that. It's not about having the case to, it's about what Tom's saying about creating the culture that it's okay to, which is a much softer thing. It's easy to say, yeah, we got the Equality Act, but I know of stories where, yeah, the Equality Act applies, but it hasn't mattered to the HR department. It hasn't mattered at all.
Yeah.
And the ADHD has just been dismissed. But that, as someone with ADHD who has seen a shift in attitude when I disclosed my ADHD at work, you have to do that in an awareness that there is stigma out there. But how are we going to challenge that if we hide? How are we going to make a difference if we're the 80% that don't tick that box on the form that says, yes, I have a disability? Because that's 80% of the population are saying, actually, I'm not comfortable to trust others with the description of who I am, how I am. And that's sad. So that's where the work is. It's not about there being, yes, absolutely, we should be able to, but sometimes we can't.
Yeah.
And that's where the work is, and that's why what Tom's doing is important.
And do you see that as well? I mean, I'm sure you do, Tom. Do you echo that as well, that it's, you use that word culture, which is, I think all three of us will talk about that being more important.
I think it is, like, I have people message me going, I really want to come out of my job because no one gets it. They don't understand that it's the level of understanding. If I'm being brutally honest, if you think about neurodiversity or an inclusion, really it's all lip service. It's something that we have to do to tick. It's a tick box. It's not. It's a tick box. Right. What are we doing now then as a business? Why are we not having a neurodiverse Friday week where everyone can come together, a safe space, and talk about and make it more normal? And the thing is, a lot of people think he's going on about neurodiversity again. It's not neurodivergence versus neurotypical. All the stuff that could be improved with neurodiversity as whole is actually beneficial for neurotypical people to actually have a better way. So it's not like we're against you, I'm against you. There's things that we can do in a business that actually helps everyone, like context, catch-up meetings, how you communicate. Who doesn't, as a neurotypical person, want to know what a catch-up meeting is at 4 p.m. on a Friday? It's a marketing meeting. Thank fuck, because I thought I was getting sacked. So it actually helps everyone. It helps everyone along the way. It's not, oh, well, they get special treatment, stuff like that. And if you think about it, as I'm probably a bit biased here, but when you send neurodivergent into, you see a neurotypical person, I'll sort this problem out. Neurodivergent, there's a problem. There's it solved. But then what stuff that we can't bring to the table is what we're yinging out, but we both are just literally, we're working together. And just, I know it sounds all cheesy, just together, like fucking hell, like everyone's got mental health problems, like everyone's gone through challenges in their life. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO or a cleaner. We're human beings. We're not some like different people, and everyone can actually probably relate to different stories from different backgrounds, from different diverse people, where you could resonate with something from autism, for example, or however that looks like. So why would we not bring in them sorts of stories together where we can actually learn from each other about how we can work with each other instead of just having a rigid one process fits all, because it doesn't.
Yeah. And you know what? Everything you've just said there goes back to what Andrew said earlier on and what we've said before, which is fundamentally people are people and want to be seen as people, and they want to work with other people that support them and understand them. We are not our labels. We are not our problems. We are not our challenges. They have impact, but we are not them. Right. And this piece about culture that you're talking about, from CEO to cleaner, this thing that Andrew's talking about the Equalities Act is okay to a point, but actually it's about the desire is so important. Listen, gents, I'm very conscious of time. So Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If there's one thing you could say to somebody who is at the start of their ADHD journey, whether they're waiting for an assessment, whether they're newly diagnosed, if there's one thing you could say to them that you think you wish you had been told that would have made a difference, what would it be?
Well, that's a really good question. What would, if I went back then, is actually listen to other people, and what I mean by that, I wish I had more neurodivergent friends that maybe are more experienced than me, or someone that was actually neurodivergent, because I didn't know anyone that had ADHD. It was just kind of like, until I got on LinkedIn, I didn't really have anyone that was like, oh my God, yeah, I do that, or oh my God. So I think going back then is try and put yourself out there, try and connect with other people, so you've got a support network that understands you, especially at the earlier stages, where you have got that support, where you can actually just lean on someone maybe more experienced, or someone that understands it. Yeah, that's probably like my number one, is actually just have people around you that understand that mindset, or try and put yourself out there to get them sorts of people around you.
Makes sense to me. Andrew, anything you would like to add before I wrap up this episode?
I think to add to that, because support groups and support networks are really important. It doesn't just have to be a clear resonance. Spending time with other people who have ADHD and saying, my ADHD is not like that, is valid too, and it's useful too, and it helps us understand that, 504 different combinations of those 18 symptoms can meet the diagnostic criteria. We're all different, and just because this diagnosis applies doesn't define us entirely. But going out there and spending some time in a support group, I did that as an imposter first, as a professional who definitely didn't have ADHD, and it really opened my eyes as well to the diversity within the population of people who are diagnosed with ADHD. What's ADHD? What's people?
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, listen, Tom, I'm really grateful for your time. And there's so much in what you've said that I think is really important for people, whether it's the self-acceptance and the information about the workplace and recruitment, right down to the way you have learned to accept and use the medication, for example, as a part of the tools that you have. And the fact that you can use your posting as another tool to help you and it helps other people, I think is so important. So for everyone who listens to this and watches it, please do go and follow Tom on all the links you can see.
Appreciate it.
Connect with him because I think he's got a great approach, and like I say, you're a Photoshop wizard, because they're all just too good for words. Go and just enjoy those. Because you will. But folks, thank you very much, Tom, Andrew. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we shall see you all again for another episode in a week or so.
Enjoyed it. Thanks so much.